What's going on, everybody? How are you? Welcome back. We are here on this Monday evening to talk about some breaking news around the wide world of Major League Soccer. First and foremost, myself and Guillermo Rey at The Athletic broke the news that San Diego FC are in advanced talks with Sergio Ramos. We're going to dive into that. There's also a third time's the charm maybe for Blackburn trying to sign Duncan McGuire and kind of a few other bits here until, my eyes roll back in the back of my head from just staring at my phone and screens too much. So we'll see how far we get. Let's go ahead with Sergio Ramos first. San Diego FC are in advanced talks to sign legendary defender Sergio Ramos when his contract with Sevilla expires this summer, sources tell myself and The Athletic's Guillermo Rey. Ramos' contract with Sevilla expires. He returned to his boyhood club this year where he made 34 starts across all competitions. He was still very durable and very useful despite Sevilla having a disappointing season. Sources told us that it is extremely unlikely that Sergio Ramos remains with Sevilla, but he does have other offers across the globe. He's interested in the project of San Diego FC. I'm told that if a deal does indeed get done, it is very, very likely that he's going to be a designated player. And that would follow Chucky Lozano as the first designated player, Sergio Ramos. And then most expansion teams have held that third DP spot open so that they don't commit all of their resources early on in case that they need to pivot and make big changes. Charlotte, Nashville, Austin, they've all done this. So I really expect San Diego to do that. So if they do end up working out a deal for Sergio Ramos, that would be the second DP. And then we probably wouldn't see any movement in terms of big signings until maybe next summer. But again, those would be two really strong starting points if they decided to. Sergio Ramos is 38 years old, and again, he played 34 starts across all competitions for Sevilla. The eye test, he still looks like he's got a lot left in his legs. Maybe not quite at the tippy top of world football, but he could be a very, very useful MLS player, even on a DP deal. He's one of the most decorated defenders in the history of soccer. He won 4 Champions League trophies with Real Madrid, 5 La Liga titles with the club. He won 2 French league titles with PSG, which he went and spent a couple years after he left Real Madrid before returning to Sevilla this year. He's Spain's all-time leader in caps with 180. He was a key starter in that, historic run for Spain when they won the 2010 World Cup as well as the 2008 and 2012 Euros, just one of the greatest international teams of all time. Sergio Ramos, I believe he started all but one game at those 3 tournaments. And that one game I think was like a rubber, and that one game was a group stage game when they already had first place wrapped up or whatever. So in all intents and purposes, he played every meaningful minute for Spain when they were the most dominant international team of all time. This dude, again, I had to zoom out and cut off like a third of his trophy cabinet on Transfer Market for that screenshot because there's just too much to name. I can't even fit it on a screen. I don't imagine what his trophy room looks like. I'm sure his trophy room is bigger than my apartment. And that, maybe that has more to do with the state of real estate in this country, but I digress. The housing crisis, we're not going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Sergio Ramos. There really aren't many full DP center backs in MLS, and that means that they can't be bought down. It's Walker Zimmerman in Nashville and Thiago Martins at NYCFC. There have been other center backs that have occupied DP spots that could have been bought down, like Teenage Hadabi in Houston previously, and again, you can kind of go down the list, but Ramos, if he was signed as a DP, he couldn't be bought down, so he'd be a full DP. That's just kind of how we're going to talk about it. Anyway, so he'd be only one of 3. Obviously, at 38 years old now at that position, that's not typically where MLS teams put their investment and focus their resources on. I will say I understand the thought process for San Diego, and you could very easily talk me into it. This is a player, again, first and foremost, I think he could still be a difference maker in MLS. He's still athletic enough that he won't just kind of be getting circles run around him. Obviously, then his technical quality, his mental quality, everything else is going to make him a very good player. But, I think his legs are still there. Second, this is a new club, and they're going to need a culture setter. Who better than this guy? Look, bro, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I've had my run-ins with Sergio Ramos. He's a master of the dark arts. But, dude, even this man's biggest hater can't say anything but that he's an absolute legend. He's a winner. He's a great leader. All of these things, right? So who better than Sergio Ramos to, lead your club into a new league and be the face and be the culture setter and everything else that lays the foundation moving forward. So I think that there's a lot of value on that side, and I think that part of the game is real. Whether you need a DP spot for it or not, right? Again, I could hear the arguments of you shouldn't use a DP spot on a center back, particularly an aging one, for any reason under any circumstances. Beyond that, as a neutral party, as somebody who covers MLS for a living, I hope somebody signs Sergio Ramos. I think that the league would be more interesting with Sergio Ramos. So San Diego, I would love that. Off the field and out of the locker room, like this would make them really relevant. As it, like, again, I think that they're going to be fine with relevancy, particularly in their first year. There's always that intrigue around expansion clubs. Chucky Lozano, that deal is being finalized. He's going to carry enough intrigue on his own himself. But Sergio Ramos is going to make them globally relevant for at least their first couple years. So again, things could be worse, right? Like, so first and foremost, it has to be a fit on the field, and we kind of laid out that like his underlying numbers still look good, and I will play the caveat that it's a little bit difficult to do individual numbers for defenders because we don't always want to confuse quantity with quality, right? Like maybe he had to defend more for specific game states or like making tackles and maybe the recovery, right? Like, so individual metrics for defenders is not a perfect world, but compared to other La Liga defenders, he stacked up very well, and I think that would happen. That would continue for MLS. San Diego are coming out with big ambitions. Like, look, whether you believe or not that he should be a DP, whether you believe or not that this is the correct strategy, what you cannot deny is this would be a very, very ambitious signing for San Diego, and they are coming out of the gate swinging. They are not doing a soft launch. Like, you kind of look in the like, I think that the days of air quote a soft launch for expansion clubs in MLS is long gone, and thankfully so. If you have the money, and you have a smart sporting director and staff around him or her, then you have a real chance to be good immediately. And I think that's what San Diego are trying to do right now. I know that they want to focus on youth. I know that they want to focus on development. But I'm really encouraged to see that in prime player like Chucky Lozano, who they're going to spend whatever $12 million on, and there will be no resale value. That isn't spend a lot of money, but then hopefully we'll develop and sell them on for more later. Going for Sergio Ramos is also not directly about development. That's a win now. And I mean, I think culture setting, you could say that indirectly this would be good for development of other players because you don't just want to put a U23 team out there. You need people to guide them. You need controls. You need everything else. Show them how to be pros and help carry them on the field. It's good. It's really beneficial for those young players to have more diversity in the squad in terms of age, athleticism, quality, experience, everything else. Like, again, I'll keep saying it. If it was the U23 team, I don't think that's best for development. So anyways, a long-winded way of saying that this is a win now move. This is we want to spend money to be relevant. We want to spend money to be competitive. We want to spend money to be the best version of ourselves. And we want to develop, yeah, but also we really want to win. So when they say they want to be the Ajax of MLS, they're not just talking about youth development. They're talking about all the Eredivisie titles that Ajax has won. So all that being said, that's the rationale as far as I see it. Again, I'll reiterate, no deal is done, agreed, finalized, whatever you want to say. He still has other options around the world, but this is real. The talks are very serious. The offer on the table is very serious. And hopefully we'll have updates at some point over the summer. But again, just some more news kind of leaking out here about San Diego. Another few pieces of news here on this busy Monday. Duncan McGuire has been linked to Blackburn. Stop me, we've heard this before. Sources told me that Blackburn are sending a high-ranking executive, to Orlando this week to scout, air quote, Duncan McGuire, as if they don't know enough about him already, to scout Duncan McGuire and to hopefully reignite and reopen transfer talks. Stop me if you heard it before, the boy who cried wolf, all that crap. It's a new Blackburn team. There's a new head coach. There's widespread reports in England that the sporting director has been fired. And the team administrator who screwed up the paperwork that killed the last deal for Duncan, this is the second of the two deals for Duncan McGuire's that were done, he's been fired as well after an investigation into, hey, what the hell happened? Why did that deal not get done? Duncan McGuire did a medical, signed a contract, was doing interviews for the club site, was announced, had his picture taken in Blackburn stuff, and then all of a sudden it was, we clicked save instead of submit on the paperwork. And then when they figured it out, the window had closed. So that's why he didn't join them in January. And now, true to their word, they said that they were going to come back and try again. And they're coming back and trying again. Orlando and Duncan McGuire's camp have also reopened contract negotiations. They had been completely dormant for a few months because in the winter they weren't very close. Orlando's offer wasn't super high and there wasn't like a huge incentive for McGuire to sign it. And then when interest from Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday and a couple other clubs started to become more and more real, they were like, if you guys aren't going to be serious on the contract talks, then let's not talk. Let's focus on a transfer. So that's kind of how that all happened. And right now there's a much improved contract offer on the table for Duncan McGuire to re-sign with Orlando City. The good news for Orlando, Luis Muriel scored his first 2 goals in MLS as they beat the Philadelphia Union on the road. It was a really weird game in terms of expected goals and everything else, but hey, Orlando's been on the wrong side of a couple of really weird games this season. So yeah, look, just a little positivity. I've been very, very critical, correctly, of Orlando City this season. So hey, there's some positivity, and that's good. They have Inter Miami on Wednesday, and a Blackburn executive is going to be there in person. So maybe we'll have another deal agreed for Blackburn with Duncan McGuire this summer. Who knows? And maybe they'll have just enough time to file that paperwork correctly. All right, that'll do it for today. A very, very busy Monday in the world of Major League Soccer. There's going to be more news to come this week. We got some big games, midweek action. The summer of soccer, this is like the appetizer, where there'll be a couple midweek MLS games on top of the weekend games before Copa America and Euros this summer, then League Cup, all that stuff. So we're really ramping up here in terms of games. So buckle up and get ready. Well, that felt corny. I don't know what else to say to end this, but that didn't feel good. Whatever.